Okay, welcome to session 3 of 3. This is the actual masterclass. I call it P5, and P5 stands for, it's a conversion of something, again, my father taught me. In the Marines, they have a thing called P6, and I won't say this in what are called mixed company because like a lot of things Marines say, it's not really something that mixed company should be in. It's not technically polite. So I twisted it or tweaked it a little bit. And so my P6, which is the Marine version, I'll give you my version, which is called P5, and it is prior, preparation, planning, and practice defines your performance, okay? So the beautiful thing about the P5 system is that if you don't like your performance, who's responsible for it? You are. I am. If you don't like your performance, what do? You work backwards. You look at your planning, your preparation, and your practice, and you look at how much of those you've been doing prior to the event that you need to perform in. So that brings a 100% of responsibility back to you as an individual, not someone else, not external events. Those individuals that we have in our world that are most extraordinary, and I'm just going to use Olympiads that we've talked about for the first 2 sessions of today, they get on a podium among other Olympiads. And only 3 of them get an award, okay? They get to hang something around their neck, right? It's called a medal, okay? And their medals are gold, what? Silver, and bronze. And what do they exemplify? They exemplify that among all of the elite called Olympians that started back in the Greek environment, where they started these races, they started these performance levels, physical performance, that were an exhibition of mental performance. And they found these individuals that were the ones that chose to do the extra training, the practice, the planning, the preparation, to then race at the ultimate event, at the sprints, at the javelin, at throwing the shot put, at doing the discus, long marathons. You know, the term marathon itself actually came from the Greeks, and it was a 26-mile run that when the Persians were invading at a point, the coastline of Greece, it was called Marathon. And where they were actually invading at, one Greek individual saw the Persian fleet invading, and it was a little bit north of Athens. And so he turned and ran for 26 miles to be the early warning person to get to Athens to tell them that the Persians were invading and to call the army to be ready. And he died. He actually died when he got to the city in Athens as the first person there to warn that the invasion was coming. And so they named that term marathon, that 26-mile run, in honor of that individual that came to alert them. And the Athenian army was able to rally fast enough and to respond to the invasion and actually beat the invading force, killed many of them on the beach because they were not expecting that they were going to come in there with no response. And so they caught them unaware, beat them on the beach, and the few that got away, basically went back to their home to tell them that these Greeks are no joke. And they responded with a level of ferocity and speed that they were not expecting. Now, how did that happen? When that man that ran that marathon, the first Olympiad that ran 26 miles and died, literally died for his country to warn them ahead of time. When he got there and died, was it because he had never trained before? Was he able to run that 26 miles because he had sat around watching Netflix all the time? Probably not, okay? I've trained my whole life and I've never run a marathon. It's not my thing. Maybe that's an excuse. Actually, it is an excuse. It's something that has never been the thing that I've done. I like hiking, climbing, going up the mountains. I have done some long cycle runs, but my whole performance that I do is not designed specifically for a competition like that. I train physically to train this mentally so that it allows me to help people in business, which is where I do my Olympic performance. And that is where I spend my time and effort doing all those other things that allow me to perform better here which allows me to solve people's problems. And that's what I do as a business consultant, as a game changer, as a troubleshooter. That's what I do. In all of those things that I've looked for in my life, that's going to help me move my level of problem solving to the next level of being able to troubleshoot better. It's about having the mental endurance, and it comes from doing those things that are difficult. So I train physically to help me help solve people's problems mentally in business. Sometimes that falls over into relationships. Sometimes it stretches out to parenting. Sometimes it even goes even further to doing life planning, life coaching, which is what we're here doing today. All of that training over time helped me prepare for my events when everything went wrong, when my relationships fell apart, because my level of challenge moved up to a level that was so painful and so agonizing that everybody else walked away. And I decided not to quit, not to break, not to fold, and I kept moving forward. And it was met with defeat after setback, after chaos, and the agony of having all those that I cared about walk away, quit, or just stop connecting. And I had to figure out, how do I go across this desert by myself? And the answer to that, how did you do that, Steve, goes back to the perspective that we're talking about today. And that is how do we do the alter ego? How do we access these superhuman capabilities inside of us that we were all have the superhuman ability? It was put into us. It's innate. It is built into our DNA by our creator, whatever name you use to recognize the creator. He, she, them. I'm not trying to anthropomorphize right now. I'm trying to say that whatever this creator entity concept is, and it is unfathomable to us as human beings, but whatever this is, it gave a little bit of its spark to us, whether you want to call it a soul or a spirit, or it's something that distinguishes us from a unconscious animal. We have this thing called consciousness, and we can be aware of our thinking. We can actually step away and look back at our thinking and going, I don't really like that. I think I need to change that. I think I need to upgrade myself, my thinking, my problem solving abilities, how I react. Maybe I should respond. That's a term for the distinction between reacting and responding. One's animalistic and responses is more human, and we'll call it even potentially godlike, okay? Because we're using our ability to reason, logic, and think, as opposed to flight or fright. Did I say it right? Fight or flight, that's it. And acting from our reptilian part of our brain, our ancient part of our brain, the brain stem level, the amygdala, that when things go wrong, we either want to fight or we want to run, okay? What do most people do?
Freeze.
They run.
Or freeze. Yeah.
They're not trained to fight, okay? That takes a lot of effort and learning to get in there. Unless people put in a corner, then you're like, okay, a mama, it's got her cubs. You don't want to meet that she bear because, I don't care what kind of soldier you might be trained to be. You don't want to meet a mama that her babies are in jeopardy, because she is going to come unglued on you. But here's the beautiful thing. What we're focusing on is that marathon performance, that Olympic level. Okay, what they saw is this one individual that saved a country from an invading force. They were able to defend their country, to keep their freedom, so they weren't enslaved. And you say, Steve, we're not at war. Yes, we are. Okay, because we have an invading force right now called Russia, with a megalomaniac named Putin, and he has invaded an innocent country that did not go to war for any reason. He just decided he wanted their land, and he's killing their people and doing all kinds of war crimes. There was no active war here. There was no engagement. It's a much smaller country with less resources that's being attacked by a bully. So how do we know it's not going to be our country tomorrow? You're like, well, we're far away. Yeah, but why should you wait until the enemy shows up on your doorstep to go, okay, I'm going to learn how to go fight? No, all that's going to be left for you, if you don't train, prior preparation, planning, and practice, defines your performance, okay? If you want to be able to perform, and it may not be, geez, I need to know how to shoot a weapon so I can shoot a Russian soldier that's invading my boundary. Okay, maybe it's not that, but what if it is someone that's wanting to take away your income? Or what if it's someone that's challenging your level of integrity? Is that something that's worth fighting for? I don't know. Maybe you're not an ethical person. Maybe you're not a moral person. Maybe you just do whatever's convenient for you. And if you are, I'm sorry for you. If you are someone that is decided to be a better human and continue to move your level of performance to the next level, then how are you supposed to do that? That's the big question. You're like, Steve, I want to be that. I want to be that person that sets the standard. I want to be the person when they go, I want to be that guy. I want to be that lady, that gal. Okay. I want to be, she's like Superwoman, or Captain Marvel or Wonder Woman. Okay. I want to have the bracelets. I want to have the lasso. I want to have this, like not a tiara, but anyway, you know what I'm talking about. A headband, yeah. But I want to run faster. I want to perform better when everyone else is running the wrong direction. There's a great Marine commercial, and I know I talk about Marines a lot. I grew up around it, as you know. And the question is going on. It starts from like an elevated position. It's a huge, huge beachhead. And you can see all of these Marines running in a direction, and you can see all the different tanks, and you can see all the other, not an LCAC, but a personnel carrier. Everything is running in one direction, but it's all separated, and there's all smoke and explosions going on and everything. And then in the middle of all this chaos, one Marine turns around and looks at the camera, and it says, "Which way do you run when chaos strikes?" And I thought, wow, how cool of a persona. Okay. The Marines are doing what? They're running into the chaos. They're running into the battle line. They're running into the invading force. And where's everybody else running? Okay. And that's why you want to sign up to be a Marine, because you want to be the one, what? That has gone through the hell called boot camp. It then goes to AIT, which is Advanced Infantry Training. And then you sign up and you do whatever MOS that it is that requires weeks and months of schooling and training and expertise, whether it's firing a cannon or doing intel or putting a parachute together so that the parachuters actually are still alive when they land on the ground. Every one of those require specific levels of expertise. And you go to school for months and months and months to be what? Exceptional, okay? And what happens? You get to be part of this incredible force called Marines. And when Marines land on your doorstep, on your beachhead, guess what? It's just like when the Spartans got to your beachhead, okay? Everybody grabbed their kids and their goat and ran, okay? Why? Because the Spartans did a thing early on before the Marines even showed up, okay? The Marines weren't even a thought yet, but they had come up with a term called scorched earth. And scorched earth was basically everything in front of them from the beachhead to where they decided to get back on their boats and leave became scorched. They destroyed everything. And you're like, well, that's not a cool thing, Steve, because Spartans, that sounds very much like Putin right now. I'm not trying to draw the connection there. What I'm trying to say is that was a different time in the Mediterranean, and Spartans had to fight for certain things. And when they were challenged by, see, at that time, I think it wasn't the Corinthians, it was, they were actually in North Africa. And I'm blanking on who their opposing force was, but they were fighting for certain resources. And there was another naval country there, and it'll come to me later, of course, when I'm offline. But my point is they had to meet each other and fight at different battles, whether it was on major land or on islands or whatever. And they were revered for a fighting system called the phalanx. And it was a way of shielding themselves from javelins and spears, swords, and arrows. And that shielding was a very important mechanism. And here's the concept. When you had, it was called the aspis, it was your shield. If you could lose your helmet in battle, you could lose your xiphos, which was your sword. You could lose your the aspis, which is the javelin. I'm trying to remember what the name of the actual shield was. But you could go through battle and get all that stuff lost. But if you lost your shield, if you ever had your shield, you ever laid it down in the middle of battle, when the battle was over, if you were still alive, you would be court-martialed, you'd be stripped of your citizenship as a Spartan, and you'd be exiled forever. Why? Because it was a very important concept. And that is, your shield didn't just protect you as a Spartan, it protected each person on each side of you. So you were not there just to protect yourself and be selfish, you were there to protect the unit called the phalanx. And this phalanx maneuver was so incredible, no one ever defeated it for hundreds and hundreds of years because it was so cohesive. It was the concept of team, unit, a family that functioned in chaos like no one else. And they were able to move in a lockstep fashion that was undefeatable. Now, why am I telling you the story? Because your shield, your ability to protect yourself comes from here, but it's not just about you protecting you and being selfish. It's about you creating a level of protection for those that you care about, for those that have gained your loyalty, your camaraderie, your allegiance. It could be even something as big as a family. It could be something as a company. It could be something as a community, a city, maybe even a state, maybe even a country. But it could be even something as magnificent as our race of humans, our species, okay?
Mhm.
Who are you and what are you doing today to better prepare yourself with your own shield to make a difference so that other people that are part of your unit also are protected? And that comes back to that experience. It comes back to your level of training, of going through the boot camp and the advanced infantry training. And I'm using this as an analogy, not to say that you need to go join the Marines today. It's about you being prepared, because if you wait until chaos shows up on your doorstep, it's too late. You won't have the capability and you will do what everyone else does, which is what? Flee. You will run because you don't have an ability to fight, because you have no training, you have no discipline, you have no skills. So in you becoming your better version of yourself, choose the analogy that works for you. You don't have to be a military type of, this is called a paradigm, okay, that I'm talking about how I interpret my world. You might go, Steve, I don't like that. I don't like war. I don't like fighting. That doesn't work for me. Great. Then find your own paradigm, okay? Create your environment so that it filters, so that it creates a level of performance engagement, of training, discipline, practice, of moving yourself to that next level. That's how I'll give you, I want to jump over here and share my screen with you for just a second. And I'm going to share with you something in the P5 manual. And this is on page, let's see, what page is this? This is in the guide, okay? So this is talking about fear, false expectations appearing real. And we've talked about this idea before, that fear itself isn't real, okay? Fear isn't real, that's a great, but danger is. So fear is a choice. Fear is something that you are permitting, fear is permitting a potential outcome in an uncertain future yet to occur to affect us in the present moment, okay? Now, the whole point of this is to give you, this is an ancient Roman Stoic philosopher here, in life, our first job is this, to do what? To divide and distinguish things into two categories, okay? The externals that you can't control, but the choices I make with regard to them that I do control. Now, this is a beautiful concept and it's very deep. Epictetus wrote this, and I've read a lot of his work. The externals that you can't control is not what is important. What's important is how do you respond to them, okay? And how do you respond to things you do control? Well, because he was a Stoic philosopher means that you focus on the things that are inside of you, because that's the only area that you're in control of, not the things that are external. So how you decide to respond to the difficulties in life inside is the only thing that he's talking about here that you're in control of. So being upset at the external things is a waste of time. Now, how many times do we focus on that? I'll tell you that I do it on a regular basis, you know, in difficulties in business, and when people do things that you had more faith in them to act in a better way, and then they show you that they're really not as well trained as you thought they were, as you hoped they were, then you have to do what? Well, you have to hold on to your attitude, how you decide to respond to this, because getting mad at the other person and getting mad at the chaos that's occurred because of the other person, or in this case, other businesses or a country, or our entire pandemic event that has caused this economic reversal that's in the process of happening right now, all those things are about how you have an attitude to them. I'm not saying that I'm perfect, no way. I'm saying I have a lot of growth to do. And I'm saying that I'm still going up the side of the mountain. And in going up the side of the mountain, I have to continue to stop, break, breathe. It's very important to breathe, because what happens every time we get panicked, every time we get pressured, that agony causes us to do what? It causes us to change our breathing profile, changes our breathing pattern into something that is more of a panting, short hyphenated breaths that cause us to do what? To panic in our brain and to go into the fight or flight method. The only way to use, instead of the amygdala, to actually use the neocortex in the front of your brain is to actually slow your breathing down, to take deep breaths, cleansing breaths, and maybe even to take breaths that allow you to step away for a while and to have a moment. Let's talk about a moment here, okay? What does it allow you to do when you take that moment and you learn to breathe? Well, here's a guy that in the middle of a very great, difficult environment had to learn and demonstrate how to lead a country, and in fact, a world, on how to dare great. So let's listen to what he said. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. What does this sound like right here? Sounds like a Monday morning quarterback. Sounds like someone that likes to criticize but is never in the game. In fact, they're not even at the stadium. They're just sitting at home watching on television and saying, oh, they should have done this better. That politician should have acted like this better. That business leader should have done this differently. But yet they're not even in the game. They've never run a business. They've never run for politics. They've never engaged, but yet they have all this advice. So what he's saying is the critic, that critic does not count. Let's see who the credit belongs to. The credit belongs to the man who is what? Actually in the arena, not the one that's sitting even in the stadium, in the arena, down on the field. Okay. In this point, we're talking about maybe even a gladiator pit, or maybe we're talking about a football game. We're talking about an Olympic race, the person that is actually in the arena. This is who the credit belongs to. Who does what? Whose face is marred. And what is it marred with? Dust
and sweat.
Sweat. And what else?
Blood.
Blood. What does that sound like? That sounds like battle. Okay. Dust. Why? Because they've been knocked down again and again. Their face has met the ground. Sweat, because they continue to do things that are hard and difficult, makes you sweat. And blood. Blood means that you're doing something that is risky.
Hurtful.
Yeah, you're doing something dangerous, right? And what is this individual doing? They strive valiantly. And what does it mean to strive valiantly? Oh my gosh, it means that they've erred. And they've done what? They've come short again and again. Oh my gosh, that means my friends are going to laugh at me because I've erred. I failed. I've come short again and again. What does he go on to say? Because what? There is not effort without error or shortcoming. Oh my gosh, he's given us such a diamond insight here. There is no such thing as effort. Any effort that you're going to do that's going to cause dust falling on the ground, sweat from effort, and blood from risk without error and shortcoming. So let's go further and find out about this individual that the credit belongs to, the one that's in the arena. They actually strive to do the deeds. They actually do something instead of just talking about things. They know the great enthusiasms and the great devotions. What does that mean? The great devotions comes from the devotion to do your discipline, to do your training, to continue to educate, to practice, to plan, to prepare. What do? They spend themselves in a worthy cause. They're not just wasting their time watching Netflix, who at best, okay, so at their best, doing all this work, in the end, they're going to know the triumph of high achievement. They're going to know what it feels like to get to the top of the mountain, to get to the summit. And at the worst, if they fail, what happens? At least they fail while what?
Daring greatly.
Greatly. Well, what does that mean? It means that their place will never be with those cold and timid souls, okay? The complainers, these folks up here, right? That know what? They know neither what it feels like to victory or to suffer defeat. Wow. So here's the key thing. When you are in the middle of hell and you're suffering defeat, long before you get to taste victory, that defeat is the necessary thing to create the value, the diamond that we keep talking about. So this concept, the piece of prose here that was written by Theodore Roosevelt, I've come back to it again and again because it is something that was given to me by one of my mentors. It was his thing that he went to every time he was getting set back in defeat and messed up and chaotic. And I will tell you that if you look at this and you continue to understand that the concept of whether you're going to act like with fear or you're going to really have to deal with something that's danger, most of the things in this world today are not danger. We have fear because fear is worried about a potential outcome that hasn't even happened yet. If you get down here and you do the work, so many people are afraid of the failures, and what President Roosevelt was saying is that that's just part of the game. That's part of the climb. So suck it up, quit your crying, understand it's part of the deal, and understand that when you're dealing with the errors and the shortcoming that cause defeat, that you have to continue to do those deeds and you have to stay devoted. You have to invest yourself in a worthy cause so that one day you will be able to have the mountaintop experience, that not looking back into the valley going, look at me, I'm so wonderful. No, that's arrogance. It's a personal experience, an experience that you get to share with a very rare few of other people that are what? That are also climbing the mountain, that are also up at that rare place called a summit, that are watching the sunrises and the sunsets from a view that all the people in the valley will never see. That, if you have decided to invest your life to becoming better each day, it's about the climb. It's about taking the breaks when your mind and your body feels like it's going to blow up. Your lungs feel like they're going to burn. You can't get your breath. And that's the time when you don't quit, you don't turn around, don't go do what's easy. Just take your pause. Focus on why you chose to be better. Focus on why you're doing this in the beginning. What is the outcome that you want to reach? Get your focus again, catch your breath, and then start the climb once more. That's how you become better each day. So if you're watching this by recording, thank you for being here. Please leave a comment on what this means to you, with the insight that you've got or who you shared it with and how you helped them. And we will see you next week. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.